All right, let's talk about glute training. What if I told you that everything you thought you knew about building a stronger backside, squats, lunges, all that stuff, might be missing the bigger picture? Today, we're going to dig into the science from our source material that explains why your body's biggest muscle might actually be, well, sleeping on the job. And more importantly, how to finally wake it up.
Okay, so here's the roadmap for our explainer. First, we'll talk about why your glutes are called the sleeping giant. Then, we are going to bust the great squat myth. After that, we'll look at a huge problem for most of us, sitting. From there, we'll get into the good stuff, how to actually wake those glutes up. And finally, we'll lay out a whole new blueprint for building them effectively.
So let's get right to it. The source material makes it really clear. Your glutes are so much more than just a vanity muscle. Think of them as the central engine for practically every single move you make. It's the powerhouse of your body. But for so many of us, that engine is just idling.
Quick question for you. What do you think is the single most powerful muscle in your body? A lot of people might guess their quads, maybe even their heart, but the answer, according to our source, is your glutes. Seriously, they are literally built for explosive power. But, and this is a big but, that power is often completely untapped.
I love this analogy from the source. It perfectly captures the idea. You have all this horsepower at your disposal, but you're stuck in first gear. And this isn't just about athletic performance. When this engine isn't firing right, the whole system starts to have problems.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at this list. Most people would never connect things like low back pain or even ankle instability to what's going on with their glutes, but the source links them directly. See, when your glutes are weak, other parts of your body have to work overtime to pick up the slack. That leads to all kinds of compensation patterns and injuries that just keep coming back.
Okay, now let's dive into a really big one. For decades, the fitness world has basically preached from the mountaintops that squats are the holy grail of glute training, but our source material is here to challenge that big time.
This quote right here is a total game changer. Now, this doesn't mean squats and lunges are bad. Not at all. It just means they are primarily glute exercises. Your quads and hamstrings are doing most of the work. The glutes are just helping out, so if your main goal is to build your glutes, you might be using the wrong tool for the job.
And this slide breaks it down perfectly. Think about how you move. Squats are all in the vertical, up and down plane, but your body also moves in a horizontal plane, like when you push your hips forward, and a rotational plane for twisting. To build strong, functional glutes, our source says you've got to train them in all three of those planes, not just one.
So, let's say you're doing all the right exercises, but you're still stuck. Well, the source points to this other massive hurdle that most of us are dealing with every single day. Our modern lifestyle is basically designed to switch our glutes off.
The technical term for it is gluteal amnesia, but it's also known by a much more memorable name: dead butt syndrome. Yep, it's a real thing. It's what happens when the communication line between your brain and your glute muscles gets fuzzy. Your glutes literally forget how to turn on, and you can't train a muscle that you can't even activate.
And here's the simple mechanics behind it. You've got your hip flexors on the front of your body and your glutes on the back. They work as opposites. When you sit for hours on end, your hip flexors get super tight. You can think of those tight muscles like a parking brake that's stuck on. It physically stops the glutes from being able to do their job. So, we know the problem. Now, how do we fix it? Well, the source provides a super clear two-step protocol to actually wake these muscles up and get them ready for growth. The logic here is just brilliant in its simplicity. Step 1, you have to release that parking brake. That means stretching out those tight hip flexors. Only then can you move to step 2, which is activation. These are really targeted little exercises designed to reboot that mind-muscle connection, basically to get your brain and your glutes talking to each other again.
Okay, so your glutes are awake, they're firing, they're ready to go. Now for the fun part. Let's get into the blueprint for actually building real strength and shape. This is about what your workout should look like. So what's the #1 go-to exercise according to the source? It's the hip thrust. This movement is king because it hits the glutes directly in that horizontal plane we talked about. It allows for this incredibly powerful squeeze at the top without putting a ton of stress on your lower back or your knees. But the hip thrust is just one piece of the puzzle. The source lays out this bigger strategy called the GM3 method. It's pretty simple. GM stands for your 3 glute muscles, and the 3 reminds you to train them in all 3 planes of motion.
So that means combining vertical moves, horizontal moves like the hip thrust, and rotational moves to get a complete, well-rounded workout. So let's wrap this all up. The big takeaways are pretty clear. First, stop thinking squats and lunges are the only answer. You gotta give your glutes their own dedicated training time. Always, always, always start with that wake-up routine to counteract all the sitting we do. And make sure you're hitting them from all angles, all 3 planes of motion, for the best results.
So, the question to leave you with is this. Are you ready to actually wake up your body's engine? Take a good hard look at your own routine. Are you releasing the brake before you step on the gas? Because it might be time to stop idling and finally unlock your real power. Thanks for checking out this explainer.